Okay, we're here today. Thank you for coming to Las Vegas Hospitality Evolution. We have a special guest, a person that, as we celebrate those individuals that make Las Vegas what it is today, how it evolves, those change agents, those individuals that contribute to our city, this most unique city, we have that gentleman here, and I want him to introduce himself and tell us who are you and what is your title.
Well, Dr. Wright, appreciate you giving me some time to come over today. But my name is Erick Harper. I'm the Director of Athletics for UNLV, and just excited about being in the city of Las Vegas here now for 11 years. Fortunately, met my wife here. We have two lovely daughters, and just excited about the opportunities that we have at UNLV and in this city, which is arguably becoming the sports capital of the world.
Absolutely.
And just an opportunity for not only the student athletes at UNLV to have success, but a lot of things that we can feed off of each other in this sports capital between the Raiders, the Aces, who obviously won a WNBA championship. The Golden Knights been going to the NHL championship a couple of years ago, but just those different opportunities in the sports arena that are always affected by hospitality.
Yes.
Each and every one of us in our own venues, and obviously we share a venue with the Raiders when it comes to football, but we have to be hospitable and in a city of hospitality.
Director, while you're talking about hospitality, I'm going to just ask you on right here in front of the cameras. I know that you put emphasis on student athlete. I know that the rates of our students are graduating and they are being those student athletes. What about this thing called NEAL? I want to talk to you about a NEAL and how will it affect our student athletes, or will it enhance it?
You know, I mean, NIL, name, image, and likeness, I think it's still a little too early to tell, the full gamut and but it is a platform for our student athletes to, if an industry or if a business wants you to utilize that student athlete's name, image, and likeness to promote their business, or in some particular cases, the student athlete to enhance their brand. It's an opportunity for students to make a little change. And I say a little change. Well, some across the country are making a bunch. But at the end of the day, what we have to do as an athletic department and as an institution is to make sure our student athletes understand that the educational piece, taxes, financial literacy, making sure that if you're going to promote a business, it is a reputable business. It is a business that doesn't, 15 years down the road, somebody is going, well, you know what, you promoted this business, and guess what that happened to that business? Yeah. That business did this, that, or the other. And so you have to be smart about what you can't just chase every dollar. And we try to teach our young men and young women about the long game and not the short game. Because that stack of money is sitting on the table for a student athlete, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, all of a sudden there's taxes, and then if you don't pay the taxes, then there's penalties, then there's back taxes, and then you're sitting there and your credit is jacked up because you haven't taken and understood. And then if you sign that contract, that agreement with that promoting company or whatever it may be, the next thing you know, they didn't read the fine print, and that fine print says, I'm locked into this guy or this gal for the next 10 years. And they're getting a piece of everything you do, whether you go pro or whether you just roll into and start working for a Fortune 500 company or something like that. You're still paying that person that marketed your name, image, and likeness for their business.
You know, I ask you this question because I know how you have embraced the former ball players. You have embraced us. You have this legend room for us. You have a lot of things to bring back our alumni. And I knew that you would be on top of this with this name, image, and likeness. For you to say that it's too early to tell, but I know that you're putting in place exactly what you just said. Talking to the young men and letting them know that if they, what could happen the worst that could happen, and it could be a distraction from what they're there for from the very beginning, and that is to be a student athlete. And what I commend our sports on, not back in the day when I was playing, you know, a lot of the guys put all their eggs in one basket thinking they were going to go to pro and didn't get their degrees, and that's why we started that basketball alumni so they could come back and get their degrees. What I love about you and your administration is how much emphasis you put on student. Yes, athletics is important. Having fannies in the seat, having that tradition of winning, that's important too. But the individual, what I like about you is that you focus on the young people, the individual. Because now, what sport did you play?
I played football.
You played football? What position?
Yeah. In college, I played football, but I was a safety.
You played safety?
Safety, linebacker, whatever whatever coach drew up.
So
what I played.
Okay, you can play it. You can play it. See, when you tell me those two positions, linebacker is a very aggressive position.
Yeah.
That's a headhunter, and so is the defensive back.
Yeah. But and I'll take it just a step back. Is in high school I was a quarterback and I was a point guard. So what I like to do is I don't want all the attention, but I want to help the team win, and that's in life. It's on the court. It's off the court. That's where my focus is. I'd love to win every single game that our athletes go out and compete, every single race that they go out to. But at the end of the day, there is an expiration on our ability to perform at a high level in the various sports. Because my days as an athlete ended soon to be able to do anything. So therefore, as you mentioned multiple times, the student aspect of it, it's important that is every student athlete that come to UNLV or any other school across the country, is there going to be a 100% graduation rate across the entire country? Absolutely not. But at UNLV right now, we're sitting at 85% graduation rate.
Wonderful.
And that shows that our coaches are recruiting student athletes that have an interest in getting their degree. Because at some point, and one of my mentors told me, Hart, there is an expiration on your ability to influence people from within your sport. So therefore, your degree is the most important part of what you do when you go to college. Winning championships and all that is absolutely phenomenal. And I would never sit here and say that that's a byproduct of going to school. The byproduct of going to school is getting that degree.
I also wanted to say that as a professor in hospitality management, I taught at UNLV and I'm the director of hotel hospitality at CSN. All of our classes articulate to UNLV. It's a 2+2 type of articulation. Man, I would really love to have any of your athletes that may want to go into hospitality, because I think I could really help them in a direction where they could be even more so when they get to UNLV. That's a personal pitch.
I understand the concept.
Yeah, Director, I wanted to ask you this. Now, I see how you interface with people like myself and the student athletes. I would say you're a very personable communicator, man. And I think that's going to make a difference in these young, impressionable athletes when they see that their athletic director understands them. And that's so important that you're not talking above their head. You have a range, and I'm going to just say this, I know you're a very intelligent man, but you have a range from the alley to the White House, man. I think that you could really talk to the students, the student athletes, as well as I've seen you interface with the coaches. How are your relationships with your coaches? And I want to get to the Lady Rebels, but however you want to address that.
It's important with your coaches for them to know that you support them. Now, every Division I coach, Division II, Division III, at the end of the day, they understand that winning is part of what their job is. It's not the only part of their job. It's also mentoring and influencing these young men and young women to think about life after sport. And we talked a little bit about that. But life after sport is also a big part of what they are supposed to do. I don't recruit your sons or daughters just to bring them here to play sports so I can win a championship and I can get my bonus money and then I can go look for another job to try to find more money. I have an innate responsibility to help influence and help these young men and women grow. Because quite honestly, some come to school, don't have a mom or father. Their grandmother's raised them, or their uncle has raised them, their aunt has raised them, their sisters raised them, their brothers raised them. So what our coaches have to do is make sure that they understand that student athlete that they're recruiting, their background. Where is that student athlete going to need the most help once they get to college? Is it going to be on the social side? Is it going to be on the athletic side? Is it going to be on the academic side? Where are we going to be holistic in our approach to this student athlete? And every student athlete's not the same. Mm-hmm. There's some that, and I was very fortunate. I grew up with both parents, and they were both tough on me. Tough love one day, and patting me on the back the next day. But at the end of the day, it's important for our coaches to understand who they're recruiting and what type of character, integrity, and balance these young student athletes have in their life. And when I say balance, it's, do they understand that nothing good happens after midnight? We see it all the time across the country. Nothing good happens after midnight. And we've all made that mistake and been out after midnight and maybe didn't get in trouble, but something wasn't, we shouldn't have been where we were. So it's important for our coaches to recruit those young men and young women that have that high character so that when you're in the locker room and you're preparing for a game, everybody's locked in. Or when you're getting ready for that midterm, when you're getting ready, whether it's a test or a paper, when you're getting ready, you're locked in. And you're locked in with the academic counselors. And for 11 straight semesters, we've had a cumulative GPA of 3.0 or better for all of our student athletes involved. That's remarkable. Our women's soccer team last semester had a 3.6 cumulative GPA for all of the 30. I think she has 35 student athletes on her squad. 3.6.
That's outstanding.
Okay, that is outstanding, right? Football has been as high as 3.0, and that's 105 student athletes, right? So, and take Lady Rebel basketball. You mentioned that a moment ago. They're north of 3.3. So our coaches are recruiting student athletes that have a focus on the student side. And I know many times you and I have had the conversation about there's a reason student is first. Mm-hmm. It's not athlete student, it's student athlete. Mm-hmm. And we have a responsibility, and not only in athletics, but we also have a responsibility to engage in the campus community so that our deans and professors know who our student athletes are, but not to give them a grade. Mm-mm. They need to know, we want them to know who they are so that our student athletes aren't put into this silo that they're not a part of the campus. Hence, a year ago, about this time, we were working on a Build-A-Bed program, and over 420 of our student athletes participated. 420 of our donors, student athletes, probably north of 275, 300 student athletes. Others were out of town, but we built 100 beds as part of Sleep in Heavenly Peace. And those beds go towards young people in the city that are sleeping on the floor, or 2 or 3 to a bed, or 2 or 3 to a couch. That is a part of who our student athletes are too. We also want them into the community. But by having that on our campus to build those 100 beds, the most they built in one day at that particular time was 35. We built 100 in one day from about 7 in the morning to about 2:30 in the afternoon. But our student athletes were involved in it, and they also delivered some of those beds to some of those young kids. Wow. And those are some of the things that a lot of people hear about, but they don't really understand how important that is to our student athletes, because some of our student athletes grew up like that. Mm-hmm. And it's important for them to give back. I took my daughter to deliver 5 of those beds. And we walked in one house, and there was 3 people sleeping on about a 4-inch air mattress on the floor. These 2 little twins didn't have a bed, and we put 2 beds in their home. I think those are things that people need to spend some time focusing on, and it's not just about wins and losses. But again, by all means, we want to win championship after championship after championship. But at the same time, there's more to life than just winning championships.
You know, as an athlete, you have to have somewhat of an ego.
That's what it's about. A lot of it is making sure, because somebody did it for me. Somebody has done it for you. You want to do it for somebody else. You want to pay it forward. You want to be able to, to see your sister and brother and come by and smile and say, yeah, that we had this class in this building and we were in this dorm and that dorm. To sit down and have those conversations with people you went to school with is remarkable, because sometimes, as the older we start to forget a few things that happened in college, right? But that part of being a student athlete, and you mentioned my engagement with our student athletes. I want our student athletes to know from me that I walked in their shoes, right? Mm-hmm. They seem to have more trust when they can talk to someone that's walked in their shoes. And I don't care where a student athlete came from or where they want to go. If I can do something to help and influence them once they arrive on our campus, then I'm doing something that somebody did for me. I'm doing something that my mom and dad taught me how to do, is to give back. And I take this, just last year, one of our student athletes in the sport of soccer, she emailed me. Now, it takes a lot of gumption just to email the athletic director directly and ask a question. In my opinion, I think it takes a lot of gumption, and it takes a lot of forethought. It takes a lot of charisma to be able to do that. And I literally responded to her. I said, schedule a meeting with my assistant, Jackie, and we can sit down and talk. I'd be more than happy to give you some input. And she just wanted to know what do I want to do after college? She had no idea, right? I think she had an idea, but she just needed some direction. I have a responsibility to answer that email, right? Doc, I don't know that I had moved on to the next task I had that particular day, but I heard my assistant outside my office on the phone. That young lady had called her that quick to schedule a meeting. So what do? Okay. She's not necessarily
with your busy schedule.
Not necessarily that I'm bluffing, but if she's going to take that initiative, I'm going to pour into her how much ever she wants to figure it out, what she wants to do. Lo and behold, this young lady comes in, we meet. I put her through about an 8-week internship within our athletic department. So she got an opportunity to engage in marketing, ticketing, fundraising, business office, behind the scenes in Thomas and Mack events with NBA Summer League. And you know how busy it is around NBA Summer League. So she was able to kind of get a broad scope of college athletics and a little bit of the entertainment industry as it relates to Thomas and Mack, NBA Summer League. And then, what's she doing right now? She's doing an internship with LVCBA.
Oh, wow.
So,
you prepared.
That's how her initiative has helped. And we introduced her to Lisa Motley over at LVCBA.
You introduced my students to that. Remember when I asked you if I could take a tour of the Thomas and Mack? And not only did you take the time to take us on the tour, but you had us talking to all of the integral people that make the Thomas and Mack work. So I know personally, I don't see how you do it.
I have a great staff.
Okay,
I'll give it.
But you were there.
I'm involved, but I can't be there for every second of every moment. No. But at the same time, I have a staff that's willing to pour into our young student athletes the same as I am and those others in the community. I have a staff. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. But are we going to strive to be perfect every single day? Absolutely, 100%. And if they're not striving to be perfect, as I tell people within our department, if you don't want to do it the way we're set up to do it for our student athletes, there's some boxes in the equipment room we can help you clean your office out. Because it's important. If without these student athletes,
to have those standards,
what jobs do we have? I mean, I've been in this profession for 33 years. I don't know any other profession right now, right? But it's important that we not only pour into our student athletes, but also pour into the community, because if we can keep some of our student athletes in this city, that only grows the continues to grow the fan base of our student for our student other student athletes coming in. And then these student athletes, 10 years later, well, I've been working over at MGM Resorts International. I've had spent some time with Tony Gladney, and all of a sudden, you know what? I want to give back to my institution. I want to give back to my sport, and it just continues to grow and grow. There's over 140,000 UNLV alumni across the country right now, and there is a vast majority in the Las Vegas area, and we have just barely tapped the market of what we can do to take UNLV to heights never seen before, heights never imagined before, but we have to do it together.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm a believer in you. When I called you about my tourism class, you took the time to do that, and you were at the events with us. Not all of them, right, but the ones that you could be at the round table in, you know, not far from your office. I want to ask you this. You mentioned about our community. We're almost, you know, we're right at 3 million people. That means there's a lot of high schools out there with great athletes. Are we looking at our kids and not letting them get away from us? What is your effort reaching out to our high schools? Because we have some pretty good athletes out there.
Yeah, really good athletes. Las Vegas, at 3 million people, if there's not athletes here, there's absolutely something wrong.
Something's wrong. Right.
Because there's some great alumni that have played here at UNLV that live in this city. I was just with, you know, Pastor Randall Cunningham the other day.
Yes.
You know, Hunky Cooper is back here at UNLV. I've seen Danya Monroe, who's here in Las Vegas. Jackie Robinson. So the number of student athletes, former student athletes at UNLV that are in this city is remarkable. But from a recruiting perspective, what I look at is if the student athlete fits what the prospective student athlete fits what the coach is trying to do, then they, by all means, you should recruit locally. That person fits. But, you know, sometimes student athletes, prospective student athletes, they want to leave. They want to go out and try to find their way.
Yes.
But what's most important when they decide they want to go outside of Las Vegas and find their way is wish them luck and let them know you always have a home. You always have a home at UNLV. And the number of student athletes that come back, prospective, because they thought they wanted to go away and get, you know, whether it's get away from mom and dad or get away from uncle or aunt or grandmother or whatever it may be. But if they know that they can always come home, then you've still done your job as a coach recruiting. I think about Barry Odom, who's our new football coach. And Barry, in the first 4 days, he hit 16 high schools in the state of Las Vegas.
Wow.
How much work does that take? A lot.
A lot.
But he did it.
Yes.
And that shows you his commitment to recruiting in Las Vegas. I remember several years ago, God rest his soul, and Tim Chambers, he had several young men from the city of Las Vegas on his baseball team, right? And what does that do for a baseball crowd? If one of those student athletes on his team has 2 people come to support them, and call it 15 kids on the team, there's 30 people in the crowd.
That's right.
That you wouldn't have had if you didn't recruit those 15 young men. Lindy LaRock in Lady Rebel basketball, obviously Lindy's from Las Vegas, but she had the past 2 years, she's had 3 starters on her squad from Las Vegas. What do you think that does to a crowd in the Cox Pavilion that seats 2,800 people? We had 2 sellouts this year. Because of what Lindy and her program is doing, and she's recruiting locally. And a lot of our coaches are recruiting locally.
And I want to say this about Coach LaRock. The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. Her father was a great coach and a great communicator. And I was so happy to see them do so well. I want to ask you this. We talked about Neil. We say that is something that's going to play out. How about all of these pro teams that are surrounding us? Do they ever come to you and say, "Hey, I'm looking at this kid over there," or is that a distraction, or is that an incentive?
It's not a distraction. You know what I tell some of the football recruits: Come to UNLV. You have a $2 billion stadium that you can play in every home game. You have a $35 million Fertitta football complex facility to practice and train and nutrition and academics in. What other athlete in the country can say they have a $35 million facility on campus and a $2 billion facility to play in every home game?
One thing you can say about Las Vegas, we have the resources.
We have
we have the people like the Fertittas, the Wins, the Boys, the Gons, Cliff Finley. Mm-hmm. All of these people make a difference in your program.
And want to see UNLV do well. And you talk about the, how do you, getting student athletes to stay at home. You talk about, but we have to let them know. And with our new president, I say new, he's been here since August of 2020, and Dr. Keith Whitfield, is we need to make sure that the high school students, the junior high students, and even the elementary students, they know that UNLV exists. Because some of them may not know. So it's important to make sure that we're branding UNLV in a way that our students, prospective students here in the city of Las Vegas understand there is a world-class institution just down the street from your home, and #1 hospitality school in the world, #2 hospitality and leadership, management and leisure. Hospitality school actually does a training table for UNLV athletics.
Wow.
So there is a true connection there on campus, and to make sure that we continue to do the part that we're supposed to do in this city. And you mentioned the different, we're surrounded by sports, professional sports. You know how you embrace it, you love it. Nikki Fargas, president of the Aces, has been to our Lady Rebel basketball game. She's been to the Mountain West basketball tournament. She spoke to our student athletes last year at the beginning of the year, and she was talking about the first ship on the Strip. Lo and behold, they win the national championship. Right. They win the world championship. We embraced the Raiders. I've had some time with Sandra Douglas Morgan and spent some time with her discussing our partnership and our relationship with the Raiders. We've done some things with the Golden Knights. We were just out. Baseball just played out at Aviators Park, out at the Las Vegas Ballpark. So we've been down to the lights. I was just at a UFC last week with Lawrence Epstein. So we are very, very, very much engaged with the professional scene as relates to sports in this city. So we just have to continue to build those relationships.
That has to be able to help in some ways to recruit athletes. Mm-hmm. If they know they're going to play in a $2 billion arena, know that they're playing right on the stage where some of these pro teams can watch them, mm-hmm. whether it's baseball, whether you name it. So I think Vegas, as we talk about, has really evolved. That's the name of our show is Las Vegas Hospitality Evolution. We are evolving from the gambling capital of the world, mm-hmm. From the entertainment capital of the world to now the sports and entertainment capital of the world. And I think it enhances you. I know that you're getting pulled at by so many different people. That's why I brought up the thing about the football, because you have recruits right there for a pro team. Mm-hmm. They're not all, but you have standouts that could make the Raiders. You have standouts that could make the baseball teams and mm-hmm. soccer and all of those things. So I don't know of an athletic director that has all of these intricacies like you have in the city of Las Vegas. This has got to be a unique AD job.
It's very unique, and that's why so many people wanted the job when I got it. But what people don't see from the outside is just how special UNLV is. Just how special UNLV is to be in this city of Las Vegas. It is absolutely phenomenal. The opportunities that we have. I just can't screw it up. But again, I have a president. I believe we have a university. I believe we have a state that is really in a growth mindset, in a future thinking mindset. We just have to have more action collaboratively. We can't do it alone. We got to lock arms and move forward, whether it's nationally, locally, regionally, doesn't matter. We just have to be in it together. And, it's an old saying, in it to win it, in all aspects of life, academically, athletically, socially, corporate wise, business wise, sports wise, all of those things that make Las Vegas, and make this city so bright, so powerful. We just had the Sweet 16 here with NCAA basketball. Final Four is coming. Super Bowl's next year. Formula One's coming. Just think about all the things that go on in this city and all the things that are going to go on in this city as we continue to move forward. We obviously had the draft here. Javen White played a couple years for the Raiders after playing for UNLV. But thinking about that football player and that WNBA player, that they can go to school at UNLV for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever they decide, and then turn around and have their professional career right here in Las Vegas. And there's no state taxes.
I'm telling you, this is, we have to pinch ourselves and say we live in a city like this, man.
Yeah.
This is a unique city, and it continues to evolve even better. So many opportunities, and you being when I say you, I'm saying UNLV sports being a microcosm of this city. Mm-hmm. It's special. It's very special. And student athletes, I notice your student athletes. I come to a lot of the events. I'm on the dean's commission for graduate students. Mm-hmm. I enjoy being on that commission for UNLV. But when I come out to the events that Coach invites the former Rebels to, mm-hmm. it is just amazing how far the sport has come. I look at these young guys, and I say, I take all ego out of it. The game has gotten faster, it's a lot more. We say, we were basketball has been a very contact sport. Nowadays, man, so many things have changed where the game is fast. The running Rebels really showed a side of basketball that even the pros are doing now. Yeah. With the Warriors. That running Rebel. What we did and broke all those records before there was a 3-point play. We were running, man.
Yeah. It just shows you some brands can stand the test of time.
Yes.
And running Rebels has stood the test of time. Being a Rebel has stood stand the test of time. But when you look at guys like Leon Samaska, who's got his strong footprint here in Las Vegas, and what he's done
as a lawyer.
Former Rebel. Boyd Law School is one of the top law schools in the country. Former Rebel. Just those individuals like Steve Stallworth, what he's done at South Point and working with Mr. Gahn and Ryan Growney out there, and what he's done with the Equine Center out there. They've got the NCAA bowling championships out there. Wow. Coming up here in a week's period of time. You got Stallworth, you got Tim O'Reilly, who is an attorney here in Las Vegas. You have Joe Harrell, who works with the Tau Group. There's just Michael Chudd at UBS Financial, all former student athletes here at UNLV. But again, I think about
Dr. Chuck Rigioli is I want to say he's a heart doctor, but he was a former ball player.
And I think I mentioned Danya Monroe earlier. Danya Monroe is in the financial world, and she was working, I believe, for one of the national corporate companies, and she realized that she was giving them more percentage of her work than she was taking home, and so she started her own business, and now she's a very successful former Lady Rebel. Jenny Ruiz, our women's soccer coach, is a former Rebel. Ryan Moore is here in Las Vegas. He's a former Rebel, and his wife is a former soccer player that actually played with Jenny Ruiz. So it's really exciting to see the number of student athletes that are still here in this city. I was very, had an opportunity to spend a little time with LJ a few weeks ago. I saw Anderson Hunt last week. So getting those and having those guys see you at games constantly, but just to see those guys and Wink Adams and some of those guys that I see, and obviously, Coach Lon Kruger's around, but, Kevin's doing a good job with the Rebels, and I think we're going to get ourselves in more consistent manner with having, that transfer portal, as crazy as it is. Right. But I think Coach Kruger, in 2 years of being a head coach, has done some things, I think, that's going to set up and build a brand, enhance the brand and build an opportunity to enhance what can go on at the Thomas and Mack Center. And when the Thomas and Mack Center is loud and people are proud about being in there, it's still one of the hardest places to play within the Mountain West Conference. And who knows? We continue to do the things that we're doing.
You listed all of those former Rebels, former student athletes. What can you say, Director, about the psychographics of athletes and what we bring to the table in the professional world, in the corporate world? What would you say we bring, the student athletes bring? I know we bring that competitive edge, but what are some of the other things that student athletes bring to your corporation?
Teamwork, organizational skills, time management. Because as you all know, your day is very, very structured as a student athlete. Whether it's getting up, working out, going to class, practice, getting the right sleep, training table, getting the right sleep. But that structure, that time management, you already mentioned the competitive nature. But all in all, there's nobody that does anything by themselves. I don't care if you're a golfer. You got a swing coach, you got a mental coach, you got a nutritionist, you got somebody that plans your schedule for you to get from this tournament to that tournament. Tennis player, the same case. So to have those opportunities to be able to do those things as you take it to the corporate is that teamwork mentality.
And it comes natural to student athletes because we've been ingrained with that type of structure. I wanted to ask you about what do you think our future is going to be, not overall for all of the sports. And that may be an unfair question because I know you break them down individually, but where are you leading us our program to?
What's most important to me is to make sure we position UNLV in a way that it's never been positioned before. So whoever comes knocking on the door, because we're in a world of conference expansion, realignment, and all of that. It's elephant in the room in every conversation I have. But it's important that we understand and we make sure that we're doing the very best we can every single day for UNLV. Where we land from this year to 8 years from now, to 10 years from now, who knows? If I had a crystal ball, I'd be able to, that was real, I'd be able to tell you. But it's important that we just continue to position ourselves.
I know one thing that we do know, especially under your leadership, the trajectory is up. It's not lateral. It's always. I see you out there, man. You have a lot of energy, and I want to thank you for taking out some of your time to just come here and to support my podcast, because I'm an alumni and a friend, and I appreciate that. I really know that we are on our way up, and we're already done some things that traditionally no other school has embraced like UNLV, and that's student athlete. Mm-hmm. Student athlete. Now we got 85% graduation. Back in my day, it was not.
And I want to get it to 90. I want to get it to 95. If you're not going to reach for something that some can tell you is unattainable, why reach? why reach? I mean, I'm too competitive not to reach for what some will say that's unattainable. And if we get there, we get there. But there's definitely not going to be one moment where we're not trying to be the very best of the best in all aspects of life. And I think about, you know, our engagement with campus as an athletic department, but our professors are some of the best in the business. As an R1 institution, just talking about the amount of research that's done at UNLV, Blackfire Innovation, our research campus that's headed up by Bo Bernhardt, who was a former student athlete. He's from Las Vegas, but I think he went to Valley High. But he left Las Vegas, but he came back to his home, and he is doing a magnificent job of leading the Blackfire Innovation and Research Center over on off of. I can't even think. I can drive there, but I couldn't tell you what street it's on. But that research park, there's over. I think he told me last. It's over $3 trillion worth of corporate businesses that are housed in that space, and they're building more space. Our president and what he's doing with the President's Innovation Challenge. Those things are expanding the resume of UNLV. It's expanding the footprint. It's reaching out to, this year, the second most diverse campus in all of the U.S. Very diverse student body, very diverse faculty and staff. Our coaching staff is very, very diverse. And you think about those things, people say, well, we're not in a silo. We got tentacles reaching out everywhere. And that's important if you want to build a global campus, an international campus, to where we are setting the standard versus following the standard. We rather set the standard and make our own and tell our own story versus letting somebody else tell it for us.
Can you expand on President Keith?
Dr. Whitfield?
Dr. Whitfield, that initiative that you just mentioned, how does that impact our community?
President's Innovation Challenge is a way that you're focusing on students on campus that have an idea, and that in being innovative and creative, and maybe that idea that they come up with resonate. Obviously, it would be born out of Las Vegas. It would be born out of UNLV. But if it's the next greatest thing to hit an industry, then it's tied back to UNLV. Right. So that footprint expands. And that innovation challenge, he just had the first one last year. But that innovation challenge kind of gets our students thinking differently. Versus I'm going to get my degree and I'm going to go to this other school and get my master's and my doctorate. Well, so be it. You can do that. But the research park that Bo Bernhardt runs is you can take your idea over to that research park, and they have a small business development space over there that will help you take your idea to fruition. So there's so much more. You can take your idea, take it over there, expand on it, trademark it, patent it, all those different things that all of a sudden it's UNLV. And UNLV can help you take an idea from start to finish. And I mentioned doctor, and I'll have to brag on my wife. She's getting ready to get her PhD in public policy at UNLV. And she's got her undergrad, her master's. And
so you're going to call her doctor instead of honey? Or
I'm going to call her whatever she tells me to call. Because you mentioned I'm all over the place. Yeah. She allows me to be all over the place by her strong support of me. And I can't thank her enough for that, because without her understanding and support, I couldn't do some of the things that I'm able to do right now to advance UNLV. To advance UNLV. Yes. But she's at games, she's at competition, she's goes to events with me, and and vice versa. I mean, she's over at the UNLV Foundation as an associate vice president, and I can't be more proud of her, of what she's doing and helping her, and pretty much raising our two kids. But at the same time, that's a balance of life that we have to have, and it's integration. When you integrate your work life into your personal life, because if you're not, one's going to eat you up one way or the other.
I want to ask you something personally about your two daughters. Mm-hmm. Are they into sports?
The youngest is, And you would be proud to know that the oldest is into hospitality and culinary.
Okay.
She's going to school at Southwest Tech. She's a sophomore, and she wants to feed into UNLV to go into the hotel college.
That's wonderful.
And potentially own her own, either her own bakery or own restaurant.
No, she can start. She can start with me. Now. She can start at the college. And remember, our credits transfer over.
Yeah.
But I could share so much with her from being born and raised in Vegas, and doing almost everything hands on from front of the house to back of the house. My years here, yeah. I mean,
and she was born in Vegas too, so. She really enjoys the culinary piece over at Southwest Tech, and the professor one of her professors over there was at UNLV as well. So she really enjoys it. I really like to see her creativeness in the kitchen. She just participated in a cooking competition. They didn't place, but she really learned a lot.
Yes.
Because they actually cooked on campus at UNLV, and they were only provided burners. Like the little butane burners. They didn't get the stove.
Yes.
They got a little burner. But they made a 3-course meal, and she was kind of the Gordon Ramsay of the group. She was doing the tasting and the testing, but they just, it was one of those first time they ever competition. They just ran out of time, and they didn't get everything done like they wanted to.
I heard, I don't know if it was Coach Kruger. I heard one of your coaches say, we win, but we don't lose, we learn. And I said, "Wow, that's deep." You even if you happen to lose, you learn from that loss, and you can improve on that. So it's not such a negative mindset. We lost. No, we didn't win this time, but we learned something for the next time we play them.
I mean, you should learn something from every competition that you're in. I mean, regardless of what it is. Whether you win. And in this case, a lot of times now there's a lot of ties in soccer now, and at the collegiate level because they don't have a penalty kick system. They don't run another 5 minutes. So even in that tie, you can learn either what not to do, or we can do this better if we do it this way or that way, or when you lose, you can say, okay, why did we lose? Let's figure out why we lost. I'm not going to concern myself because we just ran these sets absolutely perfect every single time we called them, but we didn't run them so perfect. These other sets over here are so perfect. Why did we not? Is it did I as a coach call it at the wrong time? Or did one of our, did they make a better call than we did? Because at the other, they ain't gonna just stand there and look at you and let you do what you want to do. They're gonna challenge you and be competitive too. But at the same time, it's important to go out there, be competitive, represent the UNLV on that arch that's on your jersey, whether it's on the shoulder, the arm, the chest, the back, wherever it is. Make sure you're representing that UNLV.
I want to ask you this: a lot of people don't realize that the ladies that dance or are cheerleaders, they're athletes, aren't they?
They're considered athletes, yes.
Well, I know I can't flip like that.
They're not an NCAA sponsored
right.
Sport, but there is a new emerging sport called tumbling that is going to be an NCAA sponsored sport. But they're not necessarily considered. They're student athletes in what we call them because they are out there performing. They're out there energizing the crowd. They're out there helping our student athletes that are actually in competition. No, some are. There are a few of them that are on a partial scholarship that we help fund, but they do a lot of their own fundraising themselves.
We have the number one dance team in the nation, right?
Yeah, Rebel Girls and Company.
Oh, wow.
They competed in a world championship down in Orlando, which they won. They really work hard to support our teams. I wish we could. There are things that we would like to do more, but we have 17 sports, and we're doing everything in our power to support those 17 NCAA sponsored sports that we have, from cross country to women's track and field. Right now, we have one of the leading shot putters in the U.S. at the NCAA level. She's broken her own record multiple times this year, indoor and outdoor. And it's just that there's just so much on our campus that people don't know. So anybody out there watching and listening to the podcast, come on down to UNLV campus and just see how special our student athletes are.
The synergy is just getting, more and more. Like I said, your position as an athletic director, I don't, with all of the things that you are dealing with and all of the things that's surrounding you with the pro teams, with, all of the different things that that continues to make you a better athletic director, and also being able to bring that community together. Because I know different sports are talking to you. I know that you're you got your arms around this Neil thing, and that we're keeping our kids, still student athletes. I just really commend you. I know that you're going to do a great job, man. I know you have done a great job with the alumni, with all of us old guys. We were running rebels. Now we walking rebels.
Walking,
man.
about to be crawling.
Yeah, about to be crawling. Some days I am crawling.
But Dr. Wright, it's just so important to have alumni around. I'm a Kansas State grad, and I'm on a couple of large text message threads with some guys that I played with, some guys that played before me. I still talk to some of the guys that are K-State, and I've seen some K-State people that live here in Las Vegas. It's so special to see a brother and or a sister from your alma mater, because you all have that connectivity of some shape, form, or fashion. And when I see you guys getting together, and I don't care if you were together for 3 straight days, the next time you're together, it might be a week later, but it's like you haven't been together in 20 years a week later.
Yes.
And I like that, and I want to embrace that, and I want our current student athletes to see how special it is.
Well, you set up a room for us to do that.
And I'm just a small part of what we're all trying to get done, and that's to showcase UNLV in this beautiful city that we have of Las Vegas, but showcase just 1.2 miles off the strip is one of the most dynamic, innovative, creative campuses and student bodies in the world.
Before we end this great conversation, what did you think about San Diego, and what does that say about the Mountain West, man?
Just tells you that we're competitive. I commend San Diego State for that run that they had. That just shows people how tough the conference is.
That's right.
For them to be the first of the Mountain West to get to the NCAA championship game, but at the same time, what it does is it lets people know that there's a high level of sports played on the West, because a lot of people that the toughest sports are in the Midwest and the East and the South. Hey, it's tough out here in the West, and you better be ready to lace them up, and regardless of the sport, you better be ready to lace it up and play some ball.
Director, thank you so much for taking out the time with us and sharing with us, and I applaud your encouragement of the former players as well as our active players, and just bravo to you, and just continue on. Keep your health and strength going. Keep your health and strength going, because that's what you're going to need. And I want to shout out to your wife for being that person that obviously is an optimum fit for you for this position, and you guys are supporting each other. I really commend her on that work, because I know how that is. When you're out there doing your thing, and you're giving it 110%, sometimes you need that extra support from home. So
absolutely, you need that. Touch your SLO. And one last thing, Dr. Wright, and I think it's important for everybody in the world that we live in right now. I think it's important. I tell our staff all the time, make sure that you are healthy mentally, physically, and emotionally. Because if you are, that 110% that you want to give every day, you can give it to our student athletes, because that's part of what. So being healthy mentally, physically, and emotionally is an extreme important part of what we do every single day for our student athletes. And if we're not in that space, then we can't give them what we need to give them so that they can be successful as we have been.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.